So let me tell you a story. It's about how a dispute over a single player's contract spiraled so far out of control that an entire country, a major cricketing nation, got disqualified from the T20 World Cup. We're going to unpack the politics, the power plays, and the precedents that led to one of the biggest shocks in modern cricket.
And this was the final unbelievable result. Bangladesh, a powerhouse team, was out, and Scotland was in. The question that just echoed across the entire sport was, how in the world did this happen?
All right, let's trace this whole thing back to the very beginning. How does a simple disagreement over where to play a few matches lead to a team being kicked out of the World Cup?
To really get the answer, you have to look beyond the World Cup itself. See, this story doesn't actually start with the tournament. It starts with the biggest, richest T20 league on the entire planet.
Yep, the catalyst for this whole crisis, the spark that lit the fuse, it wasn't on the international stage. It all started in the world's richest domestic cricket tournament, the Indian Premier League. You know it as the IPL. It all started with this crazy domino effect. So first, a top Bangladeshi player gets this amazing, lucrative contract with an IPL team. But then, after protests in India over violence against minorities in Bangladesh, the league removes him. Well, that decision lights a fire back in Bangladesh, and just like that, a sports contract becomes a massive political incident. All that anger from the IPL mess, it didn't just go away. It spilled right over into the T20 World Cup, which, wouldn't you know it, was set to be held in India. The Bangladesh Cricket Board saw this as their moment to really draw a line in the sand.
So the Bangladesh Cricket Board made this huge, bold declaration. Their team would not be traveling to India for the World Cup. Simple as that. Citing safety concerns for their players, they demanded that all of their matches be moved to a neutral country. And here's where their argument got really clever. Bangladesh wasn't just, asking for a favor. They were pointing to precedent. The ICC had already moved India-Pakistan matches to neutral spots, like Dubai, because of political tensions. So Bangladesh asked a pretty simple question. If you did it for them, why on earth can't you do it for us?
And get this, Bangladesh wasn't alone in asking this. They got some very loud, very public support from the Pakistan Cricket Board. Its chief, Mosa Naqvi, he straight up accused the governing body of having double standards and told Bangladesh to stand their ground.
So, now you've got the tournament schedule all locked in, but one of the main teams is flat out refusing to play where they're told. The International Cricket Council, the ICC, they were forced to step in and make a final, binding call. And wow, did this thing escalate fast. I mean, look at this. On January 6th, Bangladesh makes its formal request. By January 21st, the ICC has clearly lost its patience and issues a one-day, take-it-or-leave-it ultimatum. When Bangladesh refused to back down on the 22nd, the ICC brought down the hammer the very next day, disqualified.
So you're probably wondering, how did the ICC justify this, especially with the India-Pakistan precedent? Well, they argue that even though they had moved matches before, doing so was what they called a discretionary power. Basically, something they could choose to do, but were never forced to do. It wasn't a right any team could just demand.
And to back up their argument, the ICC just pointed to the history books. This wasn't some new stance they were taking. Back in the '96 World Cup, Australia and the West Indies refused to play in Sri Lanka. Then in 2003, England and New Zealand refused to play in Zimbabwe and Kenya. And you know what happened in every single case? The ICC's ruling was the same. The teams that refused had to forfeit their matches.
So, the decision was ultimately put to a vote among all the ICC's member nations. And, well, the result wasn't even close. The council voted overwhelmingly against Bangladesh, and that pretty much sealed their fate.
And this number 2, it really just highlights how completely isolated Bangladesh was in this whole fight. Out of 16 voting members, only 2 supported them. Their own board, of course, and their one ally in this whole standoff, Pakistan. Everyone else sided with the ICC. But the ICC's decision wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. It created this massive ripple effect, with some potentially devastating consequences. Not just for Bangladesh, but for Pakistan too, for their part in supporting the boycott. For Bangladesh, the potential fallout is just catastrophic. Missing a World Cup is going to tank their ranking. It could completely shatter their relationship with the powerhouse India. It could mean a permanent IPL ban for all their players and a huge loss of funding. And that's all before you even think about the fury from the players themselves, who just lost the chance of a lifetime. And the ICC also sent a very, very clear message to Pakistan. Reports came out that they were warned in no uncertain terms that if they decided to boycott the tournament in solidarity, they would face severe sanctions. We're talking suspension of their international matches, blocking their players from playing in foreign leagues, and even blocking foreign players from coming to play in Pakistan's own league. It was basically a threat designed to completely cripple their entire cricket ecosystem.
So this whole saga, which started with something as simple as one player's contract, leaves us with this huge, messy question. When sport and politics collide this violently, what is the role of a governing body? Are they supposed to be an impartial referee, or are they supposed to act as a political power player themselves? The line has never seemed more blurred. It's definitely something to think about.